Hi everyone, I'm Elisabetta Bartoloni and I'm here with Brett Tejpaul, Head of Institutional Sales and Trading at Coinbase, one of the most popular US cryptocurrencies exchanges. Brett, welcome and thank you for speaking with us today. So before we start, give us a couple of minutes on your background and your current role at Coinbase.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here. I joined Coinbase 6 months ago after 25 years of a career in sales and trading, almost 17 years at Barclays and 9 years at JP Morgan. At Barclays, I was global head of sales for fixed income and equities and also a member of our markets executive committee, which was responsible for managing all of our sales and trading businesses across the globe. My role at Coinbase today is to really just to grow the institutional adoption of crypto. And so that runs across sales, trading, custody, and prime. And I have to tell you, it's sometimes timing's everything, but we'll talk more about it as we go. But it's a phenomenal time for crypto, and I'm really enthusiastic about the future.
Great, and we are very interested to hearing what's going on in this space. But before we get there, I think the last time we saw each other was in February at our event, How to Succeed in the Seat and Off the Street, and it feels like a million years ago by now, where we could actually meet in person. But you have developed primarily in the traditional banking sector. So tell us the three main things that most surprised you since you joined Coinbase.
Oh gosh, well, it's for one, the energy is unbelievable, and the pace at which we work is mind-blowing. And so it's so much fun to be back and building things. In fact, it reminds me so much of the first 10 years of my career, when we were just running around and introducing new asset classes and derivatives and structured products and all sorts of new instruments to institutional clients. So certainly the pace and the rapid decision making is amazing. There are times where we'll have an idea, we'll scope it out, and in just a few weeks it goes live. And so if you think about the go-to-market strategy, it's amazing. I'd say we're super diverse as a culture as well. So much more diverse than all the years that we spent in investment banking trying to achieve that. And that brings a huge diversity of ideas and engagement. We're also mission driven. And so Coinbase's mission is to create an open financial system for the world. And what I've noticed is that as a collective of roughly 1,000 people now, we're all focused on that mission, and it unifies the firm.
Very interesting. Thank you, Brett. So let's move in talking about what makes people successful. So I'm very curious to hear from you what leadership skills have been key for your success, both in the seat and off the street.
Well, I'd say it has to start with humility, to recognize what you don't know. I'm right now in an unfamiliar space, and I know that I've got tons to learn. I'd say curiosity and the drive to learn. So you have to make an investment in yourself and force yourself out of your comfort zone. I'd say you need the confidence to apply what you've learned. And as soon as you do that, you have to think through how to make it better the next time. Equally, when presented with great ideas, you have to figure out how to champion the best idea. I'd say working in tech is a super flat culture. And so it doesn't matter who you are in the organization, it's the best ideas that win. And then lastly, I'd say figure out how to be communicative and inclusive. Explain your recommendation, pivot when needed. And so I often find one of the pitfalls is loving your own idea and advocating for it to the detriment of getting the best idea in place.
Yeah, I do find communication, resilience, and ability to adapt to different environments really key. I agree with you. So let's go and talk about, what we're here to talk about, which is like what's happening in the cryptocurrency sector and how do you see it evolving in the next few years?
Well, I think, like I said at the beginning, sometimes timing is everything. Bitcoin's been around for a while, crypto's been around for a while, but we've had an explosion of activity. So just to sort of capture the engagement of the audience, I joined in April of this year. At that time, our institutional assets under custody were 6 billion. Today, we stand at over 20 billion. So more than a 3-time increase.
Amazing.
Amazing. Earlier in the summer, we acquired an execution platform called Tagomi, and it brought with us overnight, it radically transformed our ability to cater to institutional clients that want to use smart order routing and algorithmic execution. And so the stat there is that our trading volumes are 20 times what they were in the beginning of the year. Third stat, I would say, is we're now measuring the fresh capital coming into crypto, principally being allocated to Bitcoin in the billions. And so, week after week after week, we've had an explosion of incoming capital. And just to talk a little bit as to why, when I joined in April of this year, we upgraded our banking and auditing partners, and we've got JP Morgan and Deloitte. It's really important because both of those firms went through a 1 to 2 year period of due diligence to satisfy themselves that we have the right KYC and AML, and the fact that we sort of posture ourselves and act like a bank, and we've opted into being regulated. And so we're a safe on-ramp. In May, Paul Tudor Jones announced that he was entering into the space, and he gave very, very hard-headed, I would say, unemotional, not pro crypto, but just the financial analysis as to why Bitcoin may prove to be an interesting investment and a possible hedge against inflation. That was important because it served as a calling card to other traditional macro firms, which are thinking about Bitcoin as a store of value, Bitcoin as a potential tail risk hedge to the portfolio. We've seen, unbelievable wave of institutions follow Paul's lead. In July, we had the OCC, led by Brian Brooks, who's our former legal counsel, announced two important things. The first was he was going to lift the prohibition on U.S. banks being able to custody digital assets. And the second was he was open the door for non-depository institutions, the likes of PayPal, which I'll get to in a second, to apply for a BIT license, which would allow them to power their customers to buy, sell, and store crypto. In August, we saw MicroStrategy, a NASDAQ-listed company, making an enormous splash into crypto by buying 425 million of Bitcoin. And so they were, at the time, a $1.1 billion market cap company that had 700 million of excess cash. They've reserved the amount of operating cash that they need for the next couple of years, and they've invested the rest in Bitcoin, which is a very brave and remarkable thing, which I think we'll talk about for a long time in the future. And we've had a couple of fast followers in the back of that. In October, we had PayPal announce they're getting into the space. And I have to tell you, just to give you a day in the life of, by 9:30 in the morning, I had 5 separate institutional clients called, each to invest over $100 million each. And so for people sitting on the sideline that are now looking at the major banks, major accounting firms, major hedge funds, major endowments, and now PayPal's getting into this space, it's really unleashed a second wave of institutional adoption. In October, just 2 more, in October, JP Morgan announced that they were launching their own digital currency as well, where one JP Morgan digital coin equals $1 in a JP Morgan bank account. And so I think the combination of all these things is really attractive, and I think it's opened the prospect of vast amounts of capital coming into the space.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of activity and a lot of change. So, and a lot of opportunities clearly for people. So what advice would you give to professionals that are interested in getting into this area, particularly around 2 dimensions, skill sets that they need and culture?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So let me hit culture first, only because I think it's had such an impact on me. I'll quickly describe how Coinbase articulates its culture, and I think it's awesome. So top talent in every seat, play as a champion team. This is interesting for bankers. Be candid and kind. Focus on the customer. Foster repeatable innovation, and act like an owner. I think those things really resonate with me, and I've noticed that it's different the way in which we engage each other. in sort of the old world of investment banking versus the new world. With respect to how to figure out how to transition, I'd say be open-minded to take a risk. I took a risk in my last chapter at Barclays where I became head of digital in an undefined role, largely because I had this high conviction that technology would finally disrupt the last bastion of finance. It was an undefined role, but an interesting one, and it allowed me the opportunity to invest in myself and to go out and meet 300 different fintech platforms and learn by doing. And so you got to take some risk. You got to be open-minded. But also I would say you have to realize that you probably have a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking for institutional clients, capital markets, but where technology was at the core. But I wanted to find a place where I really thought that I could make a personal contribution to growing the business. And so my knowledge of institutional clients and capital markets, I think, is vitally important. And bringing that to the engineering and product partners at Coinbase has been a really awesome experience. And so the last thing I'd say is just be careful where you join. So I made the decision to join Coinbase largely because, yes, it's a market leader, but also it made the early decision to opt into regulation and having the right KYC and above board measures. And I knew that without that backdrop of being a regulated player that does things in the right way, I thought it'd be really hard to attract institutional capital.
Wow, interesting. Brett, thank you so much for all what you shared with us today. It's very, very helpful, very interesting, and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.
Me too. Thanks so much, and happy to have joined today.